The White House is increasing its call for humanitarian pauses in the war between Israel and Hamas. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken is in Tel Aviv making the case today, and he could be facing a very tough sell.
Blinken arrived as Israeli forces have made major progress, taking ground from Hamas in the battle against terrorism. Chris Mitchell brings us the story from Jerusalem.
Intense fighting still raging in and around the Hamas stronghold of Gaza City. The Israeli military attacking with ground forces, artillery, and striking from the air. The chief of staff of the Israel Defense Forces says they're destroying Hamas's terror infrastructure.
We're deepening the progress and ready to attack in other areas if necessary. We have thousands of more armaments and targets. We are ready for any deployment in any area. IDF forces, regular and reserve, are deployed in a wide and strong deployment in the north.
Hamas's elaborate network of tunnels is one of the military's main concerns. Russian television was allowed access into some of the more than 300 miles of tunnels. Today, the IDF exposed some of the tunnels they've uncovered so far and set explosives to destroy them. The IDF is continuing to plead with civilians in northern Gaza to leave the combat zone.
We've been calling on the civilians in northern Gaza and Gaza City to move south, away from Hamas strongholds in the north next to Gaza City. Move south, temporarily, for your own safety.
President Joe Biden announced that another 74 Americans had been evacuated out of Gaza through the Rafah crossing into Egypt. And the White House defended the president's call for a humanitarian pause.
A temporary pause that's localized, that would allow us to get aid in and to get our people out, is a good thing for the people of Gaza. It's a good thing for the Americans that are being held hostage. And it's not going to stop Israel from defending itself, because the security assistance we're providing continues to flow.
U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken arrived today in Israel and met with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Israeli President Isaac Herzog. Herzog told Blinken what Israel is doing to protect civilians inside Gaza.
So this is a leaflet which we are sending by over 1,200,000 leaflets to the citizens of Gaza. We've carried out 6 million text messages and 4 million phone calls to the citizens of Gaza according to the rules of international law, where we alerted the citizens in advance, including before the Jabalia attack.
Blinken wants to push for that pause or a series of pauses that may also help with the release of hostages. But some critics are concerned this could be a step toward a ceasefire or some sort of an opportunity for Hamas to strengthen itself. In an editorial, the Wall Street Journal argued that's what a ceasefire means to Hamas, a chance to repeat October 7th another day. The similar idea of a humanitarian pause gaining steam on the Western left is to Hamas merely an opportunity to reload. But others hope a pause or ceasefire would be an opportunity for more hostage releases. Amid the diplomacy and fighting in Gaza, the IDF is attacking Hezbollah positions across Israel's border in Lebanon after the terror group continues firing rockets into Israel. Today, Israel and the world are anticipating the speech of Hezbollah leader Sheikh Hassan Nasrallah. The U.S. says it hasn't seen any indication Hezbollah is set to join the fighting against Israel. But others are concerned that if Hezbollah does enter the conflict, that could lead to a regional war. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Well, concerns about a regional war could get worse after Hezbollah's leader's speech today. Chuck Holden joins us now from Israel's northern border. Tell us what's happening there. So, Chuck, there are reports of increased fighting between Hezbollah and then the IDF in the past 24 hours. What kind of activity are you seeing?
Yeah, that's right, Gordon. It has absolutely spiked since I got here about the time this rocket came in last night, about 5 p.m. And there were a barrage of rockets that came not from Hezbollah inside Lebanon, but from a Hamas faction inside Lebanon, which many people probably didn't even know existed. And that's the real concern here, is that not, in addition to Hezbollah, there are a lot of other factions that are congregating there in Lebanon and threatening to come in. We've seen militias coming out of Iraq that are, again, funded by Iran, and they're all sort of, we're talking about Pakistanis, Sudanese, people from Yemen, all over the place that are sort of congregating there, and we're waiting for this, we're waiting to find out what's going to happen if they're going to decide to attack or not. Now, this rocket came in and destroyed this storefront in a residential neighborhood. Hezbollah has rockets that are supposed to be precision guided. This definitely wasn't one of them. And the bottom line is that you never quite know where they're going to land out here when that alarm goes off. Gordon?
Well, you've been talking to the IDF. What is their thinking? Do they think Hezbollah will open a new front?
I can only say that the IDF is certainly prepared for that if it happens, because they have a tremendous number of troops arrayed all along the border here in the north and even along the Golan Heights into Syria. So whether or not they're attacking, the IDF is definitely going to be ready for it. And when they do send rockets this way, the IDF is responding in kind. And I've seen some really amazing fire missions of up to maybe 100 rounds going out. I got to see one of them as I was coming into town last night, and even follow the trail of the rocket all the way into Lebanon and watch it explode against a mountainside there. They have been taking out command centers and groups of Hezbollah troops that are moving toward the border, setting up firing positions, and they've been firing anti-tank guided missiles at Israeli positions inside Lebanon. So it is definitely hot here. If it wasn't for what's going on in Gaza, what we're seeing right here would be called a war all by itself.
Well, it sounds like they're not just preparing, but they're actually firing. So, Chuck, on the northern border, please stay safe and keep that helmet on. Well, while Israel stands ready to deal with Hezbollah, the Israeli government is meeting with U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken about a humanitarian pause in the fighting with Hamas. With us now from Tel Aviv is Tal Heinrich. She's a spokesperson for the Office of the Prime Minister. So what's the Israeli government's position and reaction to these calls for a pause?
You see, Gordon, good to see you. We are in lockstep with our American partners, with our best friends, the United States, in regards to the goals of our counteroffensive in Gaza, which is to eliminate the Hamas terrorist regime and to bring back the 242 hostages back. Just like our partners in the United States, we want to see humanitarian aid reaching the civilian population in Gaza. They do not deserve to suffer for Hamas's double war crime of targeting our population and also trying to maximize the civilian casualty on the Palestinian side. We don't want to see that. And we have facilitated and coordinated with international partners the transfer of humanitarian aid from the Rafah border crossing, as you know, between Egypt and Gaza into the Gaza Strip. We're talking about food, water, medical supplies that have been entering the Gaza Strip and reaching these safer havens that we have designated in the southwest of the Strip for the population of northern Gaza, where the heavy fighting is taking place. So humanitarian aid, and we're talking about dozens of trucks that have been entering the Gaza Strip daily, have been reaching there. But in terms of a pause, a cessation of activity, I can say that we've had such pauses in the past. When Hamas released 2 hostages and then 2 other hostages on different days, we had a cessation of activity because we wanted to facilitate their exit from the Gaza Strip. So once Hamas released more hostages, we can talk about more pauses of this kind.
I have to congratulate you for being accurate on the Abraham Accords. I thought it was off the table in light of the war, but you were absolutely correct that it's still on the table and still vibrant. What can you tell us about progress for peace in the region?
Well, it's not coincidental that we have been seeing this Hamas massacre and their launching of over 9,000 rockets at us right in the time period when Israel and Saudi Arabia, as we've said, we talked about it before, we're on the brink of a major diplomatic breakthrough of an historic peace agreement that would have changed the entire region. We're not losing hope, definitely not losing hope on that front. And the region will see this kind of peace at some point. Because also regional partners and regional players understand that a victorious Israel, an Israel that will put a dead, decisive end to terrorism, is something that serves their goals, it's to their benefit as well. And everyone in the region knows that. But first, Hamas must be eliminated. That is our first and foremost mission right now.
The prime minister has said that this is going to be a very long war. It looks like there's progress against Hamas right now. How long are you expecting this to last?
Where there's no stopwatch here, we cannot pinpoint a specific date and specific time, as you know. The goal is to eliminate the Hamas as a terrorist regime, and the military power should be eliminated, and also as a governance body in Gaza. We can accept this no longer. We will not tolerate this reality in which thousands of rockets are raining on Israeli territory from time to time, and now we're talking again about over 9,000, and we will not tolerate another massacre of this kind. You know that one of their top commanders just gave an interview a few days ago to a Lebanese channel, and another one was talking, I think, to one of the American networks. And they said that if they could, they would perpetrate the October 7th massacre for a second, a third, and a fourth time. This is not something that we are going to tolerate. This is why we're going to defeat them very decisively.
Well, I actually heard they were willing to do it for the millionth time, that they saw no end to that. The hatred against Israel is truly unbelievable. We're seeing the face of evil, and we stand with you. The Hamas has to end. It cannot continue. This kind of hatred can't exist in the world today. Are you concerned at all about the International Criminal Court? I find it amazing that the chief prosecutor is on the ground now in Gaza. I don't know too many court systems where the prosecutor goes out to try to gather evidence, but that seems to be happening now. In light of the ongoing conflict, is Israel concerned about what may happen at the International Court or at the UN?
Right now, we're focused on one thing and one thing alone, and that is dealing Hamas such a major blow that they will never forget. And once we're done with them, they will lack the military capabilities and the motivation to ever hurt us as they did. But Gordon, there's a built-in bias in the United Nations and double standard. And you're talking about the ICC, these international bodies against Israel. It's nothing new. It's very unfortunate and it's terrible, but it's nothing new. This is November 3rd now. Just yesterday, Iran, by the way, became the chair of the annual meeting of the UN Human Rights Council. How crazy is that? So these are the bodies that we're talking about. Bodies where countries like Syria carries the same weight as a country like Finland. That is obviously ridiculous. Right now we're focused on winning this war against Hamas, and the definition of winning will be the total elimination of their regime. But we will obviously deal with the diplomatic arena at the right time and place.
Well, I do want to remind our audience that chief prosecutor, he was born in Great Britain, but his father's Pakistani, so I'm not entirely sure he's unbiased in this. There's stories in the media about criticisms of the Israeli government and specifically about the prime minister. Others say the Israeli people are incredibly unified right now. What's your take on this? Is Israel standing strong?
Israel is standing strong, and we have a unity government in place right now, and that is really reflective of the public sentiment that we see here on the ground. If you see it on the front lines, obviously, but you also see it in back home in the home command. Everyone is taking part in this national effort. There are amazing civilian initiatives that I can sit here and talk to you about for hours. People are mobilizing help and supplies and hosting families from the north and the south who have been evacuated. So we're all in this together. Everyone knows someone who was either directly affected by it or knows someone who was abducted, was killed, was injured, someone who evacuated from a northern or a southern community, someone who's serving on the front lines as part of the reserve or the duty force of the IDF. We're all in this together, and we're very, very determined to bring down the Hamas terrorist regime. We took this decision as a nation that this terrorist enclave can be no longer.
Well, our teams with CBN Israel are eyewitnesses to it. It's amazing how Israelis are responding, and they're giving so freely. They're mobilizing. They're taking care of all the evacuees. It's absolutely incredible to see. You truly are a light to the nations. We applaud you, and we stand with you. And all we ask for is that you would be strong and courageous. Don't be afraid. Don't be dismayed. We're with you in this battle. Tal, thank you,
Gordon. We're very grateful. And just to remind the viewers that it's not only, Jewish Israelis taking part in the national effort, not only on the front lines, it's also Arab Israelis and Christians, and everyone here is together, Bedouins and Druze, and everyone understands that threat that we're dealing with.
Well, Tal, thank you. Thank you for all that you're doing.